Welcome to the Intrazone, a show about the Microsoft 365 Intelligent Intranet. I'm Mark Cashman, starting solo for a few minutes here, soon to be joined by three technology experts, and for this episode, specifically adept experts at being experts in and about in-person events. That's right, on today's episode, I chat with three Microsoft technology event experts. That is, Sharon Weaver, founder and CEO of Smarter Consulting, Sean Bugler, Principal Innovation Architect at the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, and Derek Cash Peterson, Principal Architect at Simpraxis Consulting. You, oh lucky Intrazoner, get their insights about, you guessed it, in-person events. The real goal is to give you, future attendee, tips and tricks and best practices to optimize your in-person event experience. It helps make a experience become a oh yeah kind of experience. We also get a sense of what each person plans to present at the conference, and we hear a few stories from their past in-person event memory box. Yes, they will be focused on the Microsoft 365 Community Conference that's coming up so that you can be the most prepared to make the best informed decision about going. And once you decide to go, how to go in a way that makes it the most optimal experience for you. And maybe, most importantly, on this episode of the Intrazone, we collectively derived how Copilot should be spelled. In their expert opinions, of course. You only need wait a few minutes to find out their thoughts and passions on this particular branding. We had a lot of laughs. There's a lot to get you prepared for before you pack your bags and board your flight to Orlando. So, without any further flight delays, here come the on-time insights from Sharon, Derek, and Sean. All right, we are here pulling people in from the regions of the world that you hopefully will learn and discover. I think our farthest is Iceland. We'll save that for who in this panel is from Iceland today. But we are here to learn a little bit more about what these folks, myself included, think about in-person events. Specifically, we're all going to be going to the Microsoft 365 Community Conference, and we want to get a really good sense of what Derek and Sean and Sharon and myself, and we want to hear from you as well, what you like and love about in-person conferences and what gets you there, but also to give you a sense of what this event will actually have in store for you. So, first of all, let's learn who's who. Sean, we're going to start with you. Who are you? Where are you calling in from? And maybe what is it that people know or should know about you?
Yeah. Hi, Sean Bugler. I'm a Principal Innovation Architect for the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. We're the transportation planning, financing, and coordinating agency for the 9-county San Francisco Bay Area, just kind of tying the region together in transit and housing and a whole bunch of other stuff.
All right. So we're going to drive with Sean over to Sharon.
Hi, I'm Sharon Weaver, and I own an IT consulting firm called Smarter Consulting, and I am a Microsoft Regional Director, MVP, and MCT.
Excellent. And Derek, and maybe this is the reveal. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Reykjavik, Iceland.
Hey!
Woo! Where we have the active volcano right now. Yes, I am perfectly fine. It is happening about 20 or 30 miles from here. But yeah, last weekend, it just sort of like lit up the night sky, and it's pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
But everybody's safe.
I
live on a hill, so I'm in good shape. Yeah.
Awesome. So here's my trick question just to start off with. There is maybe a little bit of news, I think, every day for the last year, if not every minute, about Copilot, what we are doing, we being Microsoft, and of course our partners enjoying the benefits and all the fun around AI. But I have to ask the three of you, what is your, if branding could just listen to exactly what you say and make the change, what is your preferred spelling of Copilot? Derek.
I'm an old school SharePoint guy. So I would say capital P, capital C, capital P.
And all one word.
All one word.
O-P-I-L-A-T.
Yes.
Okay. Sharon.
I totally agree. I think it follows the SharePoint precedents. And also, like, phonetically, if you don't do that, it's Coppola. And so I always tell people, what are we talking about, this Coppola thing?
Very good. Sean, are we going to make it a trifecta? Or you got anything to counter?
I think we landed on the right spot. I think that Copilot, all one word with the capital C and everything else lowercase, is the way to go. I think that it's friendly, it's approachable. I think that it goes away from what was always a very difficult thing to remember to spell with the capital P in SharePoint. There's a reason Microsoft hasn't done this again. I mean, look at Power Apps. They separated that. So they understand that this is not necessarily the best brand to keep the lettering the way it was. Yeah, I think they landed in the right spot.
I'm old and I don't like change. So
how else will we know who knows what they're talking about if they don't capitalize it correctly?
Sean, the gauntlet is thrown.
I know. I am ready for it. I've got my cards right here. Reason number one that I think I'm right. The hyphen makes it sound like a descriptor, not a noun.
So we've got 2 votes for camel case, 1 vote for the plain old English the way it should be. The only thing I'm going to throw in there is I just want to make sure that there's no hyphen. There's a couple different ways that just might be fun or preferred.
No hyphens.
No hyphen.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. So
as somebody with a hyphenated last name, I'll say hyphens are not good.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Your last name being hyphenated is for a wonderful reason. Hyphenating Copilot, it's like splitting the front of the airplane. It's just a bad idea.
Exactly.
All right, so let's move into the real meat of it. You all are not only speaking and attending the Microsoft 365 Community Conference coming up, but I think you've also done this once or twice before for a pause during COVID when we were not in person. But I think there's always been a lot of value for in-person events, and just want to hear from your perspective, what is it that makes an in-person event special? Something that, would just be that one thing where you can't get it in any other way, and it's hugely valuable. Sharon, I thought we'd start with you.
I think my biggest tip for in-person is that you have the ability to sit down with people and meet with them, network them, get to know them in a way that I don't think you can really do in a lot of other areas. And so, for example, if you want to introduce yourself to a certain speaker, or maybe I even run into like clients and partners at these events, I think it's just a great opportunity to be able to connect with those people in the real world.
Engaging, sitting down, connecting. Derek, anything to add to that?
Yeah, honestly, Sharon, that was exactly what I said as well. It's just really, it's honestly very helpful. And most of the speakers are very approachable. And it's nice to be able to sit down and have a beer or a cup of coffee or lunch with someone and just get to know them as a person, in addition to learning what they have to share in their session.
Excellent. Sean?
I'm going to say yes to what both Derek and Sharon just said, but I think I'm going to put a different spin on it. It's really about the serendipity. I think that what I like about the in-person conferences is it is not just what you put on your agenda. It is everything that happens before, between, during, after, that makes these in-person conferences unique. In the same way that grocery store shopping in person allows you to see something that you would have never known existed versus searching for it, on your favorite grocery store app and having it dropped off at your doorstep. It just exposes you to more than I think you could possibly set yourself up to, especially if it goes beyond the bounds of the career blinders that you might have on when you walk in the door.
There have been conferences that I've gone to where I've gotten more out of the conversations that I've had with people, or the networking, or who I talked to at the party, or what vendor I met, than I remember about the session, right? Or the session I gave, or the session that I attended.
So you sometimes forget the sessions that you gave, but you remember those questions in the hallway.
I don't remember.
I heard that too.
What session? I don't know.
So, and I'm thinking, based on Sean's perspective, it also means when you go to a conference, always look at the lower shelves. That's where the really good stuff is, comparing to the grocery store. I'll put it in the perspective that when I think about this question, I think, what is it that I missed during the couple of years where we were only online? And the part that I missed was being actually able to have a follow-up question, whether that's me as providing an answer or vice versa, wanting to learn something, getting the one question that may or may not get answered in the chat, that was rough. But also to be able to listen to a nice session, follow up with that person, maybe see them 2 days later and finally say, hey, that was really interesting. I didn't get the one thing though. And then, you have that follow-up without it being like, well, I'll never get the answer to that question, or I wanted to provide this feedback and now they're gone. So thank you for that. I want to know specifically now, because you're planning on what it is that you're going to be doing at the Microsoft 365 Community Conference. So Orlando is looming. It's just a couple of weeks away, at least in my mind, that's what it feels like. What are you looking forward to most about this event? Whether it's the town of Orlando, the people that are coming, or just anything that when you're getting ready for an in-person event that you look forward to that maybe you haven't done for a little bit. Sean, we'll start with you on this one.
So I'll say specific to this conference, I think something that I'm excited about that's new is I don't know if you guys saw the new transformation track that they added this year. I'm most excited about that. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love learning about the tech, and obviously the tech is the cornerstone of conferences like these. But when you blend tech with tactical application, with tangible outcomes, like, come on now, that is where the magic happens. And I'm really excited to see that folded into the conference experience, because I think it's going to help us figure out, yes, Microsoft is going to hand us a hammer, but now we're going to have people both from Microsoft and otherwise telling us what to hit that hammer with strategically.
I will just say on behalf of Dan Holm, who's really putting a lot of effort into what does that track look like end to end, the right arc, the right tech blended with the right strategy and vision, great speakers. Sometimes some of the folks that maybe haven't spoken at this event, but are the right person for, thinking about transformation at a broad level. So if you don't know Dan, everybody out there, Dan is a very bright, intelligent person who knows how to align content, people, and he's not just on a napkin. He's been hard at work at this. So that's great to hear. Sharon, from your perspective.
Well, I have a whole list. Number
right,
one, can I say the parties? Can I, is that okay? Can I say the parties? I'm super excited about the parties. Sure, yeah. I live just south of Disney World now, in just south of Orlando. And so I really am excited for the parties because I do love the parks and I love being able to go see all of that. And I'm excited to share that with my friends. I'm also excited about the fact that it's close to home for me because I travel so much to go speak at all these places, that to have something close to home is great. And I'm also excited because, like Sean was saying, this transformation track is really going to bring a whole nother level to, what we're doing in terms of helping people to understand how to implement a lot of the technology that's coming out right now.
Awesome. I just want to take advantage of something that you shared before we started recording, if you're okay with it, to prove out not only where you live, but maybe your enthusiasm for Mickey Mouse and Friends. Would you mind showing us what's on your wall behind you and maybe just giving us a little hint of where did they all come from?
Yeah. I have a few ears, just a few. So yeah, and they're all special. They all have different meanings. It's everything from I have 2020 ears all the way to ears that I got in Disneyland Paris. And so each set of ears has a very specific, significant meaning to me over the years. And now that I live here, why wouldn't I have them on my wall?
Ooh, look at that. Is that a mermaid?
It's Ariel.
Oh, I love it. Because Derek and I have headphones. I now wish that the headphones were those ears. So Derek, maybe you can sort of like be an actor and give us your best with ears experience and thoughts on this topic.
Lean into it, Derek.
No.
Oh, come on.
Should I mention that the ride that he brought up only has a lap bar? So at one point on the ride, you literally dangle upside down with the lap bar. Just pointing that out.
I'm a hard pass on that one. I am super excited about seeing people, right? Like these bigger conferences, it brings out MVPs and speakers and attendees from all over the country and all over the world, really. And unless I'm going to Vienna, I'm not going to see Stefan, or I'm not going to see Laura, or something like that. So it's really nice to get all of those folks in one spot to be able to, talk shop, have a beer, whatever it is, just get them all in one spot. I mean, nerdily, I am very excited to learn about all the extensibility options that are coming out and dive deeper into those. Just because I think that we're at a spot where we're getting new things from a customization standpoint that we haven't had before. So I'm just excited about like getting into that tech and getting deeper into it.
That sounds good. And I'm waiting for you to start the SharePoint Saturdays Reykjavik, and maybe some of those friends will come and join you. We'll see.
There are 4 MVPs in all of Iceland. And I've been working with a couple of them just to try to get like a regular meetup. There aren't that many in the village, right? So.
Well, it sounds like we could at least, host, we being the whomever would come, in one of the hot springs. And by the end of it, people are like, just no more tech talk. Yeah. I'm just going to relax.
Yeah, we could do it at the pool down the street from my house, or the spa. We could go to the spa.
You can be there by the end of today, which I think is morning for you.
Sure. Yeah. I think they have a couple of flights that will get us there.
All right, I'll see you there, Mark.
Just a few.
You're in Seattle, my friend. You could leave tonight and be here tomorrow morning.
I love it. Well, let us maybe hold off on our plane until we are headed towards Orlando. Thinking in terms of there's going to be a lot of people that are coming, several thousand people landing in Orlando, and just wanted to give them a sense if an attendee, a potential attendee, we hope anybody watching this, sign up, register, come join us. What is it the attendee needs to do to prepare, to know about, to think about, to for sure do X and Y? Maybe similar to some of the things we've already said, but put your attendee hat on, whether it has ears or not, and walk in the shoes of an attendee. What do they need to know? Sharon.
I always say don't peak early. And the idea with that is don't.
Is this a high school comment, or is this
don't do so many things that you feel overwhelmed so that then you're worn out and you end up going back to your hotel and crashing. And so, it's a marathon, not a sprint type of cliche. So with a large conference like this, it's very, very important for you to go through and prioritize the things that you want to do. And very much like coming to Orlando on vacation, you can't do it all. There's a lot of great opportunities. And instead, what you should do is really identify what works best for me. What do I really want to prioritize? Where do I want to spend my time? Make sure to include some time for spontaneity and serendipity. Make sure to include some time for rest. Make sure to include some time for fun. And I think if you have kind of a better balanced expectation of what you can do and what you can't do, you'll get a lot more out of the conference.
All right. So we're pacing ourselves. We're building up steam, ensuring that we are going to survive till the end. Thank you, Sharon. Derek, what would you say to an attendee that says, what do I need to know before I go to this thing?
I would say sort of building off of where Sharon was coming from is understanding what you expect to get, like having realistic expectations about what you want to get out of the conference. Like, do you want to learn about extensibility? Do you want to learn about Power Platform? Do you want to learn about this? Identifying the sessions and the speakers that you want to attend early, and also being very realistic about what your goals are to get out of this. You are not going to become a Power Platform expert by attending one 70-minute session.
What? Nuh-uh.
All right. You're not going to become a dev expert in a 70-minute session.
That's not what it says on the Power Platform product page. It says 60 minutes and you're in.
Yeah. So take what you need and then look it up later. Like, take the resources that all of the speakers provide at the end and let that spark your imagination. Let that get you excited about the tech or the new thing that you're learning about, and then take that back with you to keep that learning going. It's not a one and done. You're not going to learn for 3 or 4 days and then it's going to be burned into your brain forever. You're going to forget it by the time you fly home. So you've got to have those action items so that you can learn and actually take that and incorporate it in your work.
All right. So, Sean, imagine that same attendee. For some reason, all three of you have been talking to the same exact person. Yeah. They've heard what Sharon said, pace yourself. They've heard from Derek, don't think you're going to become an expert in a day, which, I think there's a lot of conferences that try to express that, but I think that's 100% true. What do you tell them before they disappear off of this crazy, I don't know who these three people are talking in my head?
So they've talked to the both of these individuals. They've dismissed all of their advice out of hand. I'll give them the real advice. Everything that was just said, I would say that one thing that I'll add beyond just being thoughtful about the schedule, and you should, by the way, there's an app you're going to be able to, or at least there will be an app as we get closer to it that has the actual schedule, so you can start to organize your day. It's very tempting to just, scrub through the list and add everything ad nauseum. And I think throwing back to the advice of don't peak early, it's a really good way to do it is, waking up on Wednesday morning and thinking I've got to attend 40 sessions somehow. But it is a good way to start. So adding all of those things onto your schedule and then going through and seeing where the overlaps are and then being judicious about it. I would suggest not trying to do that day of. I think that adds a layer of unnecessary, not stress, but just it's more thoughtful than you ought to be as you're just trying to show up and consume as much as you are, like as much as you want to. I would say there's that. I would say the other piece that I would add is vendors. There are a lot of really great sponsors for this conference, and there's a really good chance that your organization is a customer of one of those or wants to be a customer of one of those vendors. Don't wait until the conference. Reach out to them now because one, throwing back to what somebody is really excited about, the parties, a lot of these vendors have events tied to their sponsorship as well. So it's a really great opportunity to find out what those things are. So you have some sense of what your Thursday evening looks like or what your Wednesday afternoon might be. So I think that's a really great place to start as well.
That sounds great. I was just going to throw in two things, only specific to this event. Most of it is going to be happening in the Dolphin, so it's the Swan and the Dolphin Hotel. And certain activities will be in the Swan. Just know that if you're going between the two, you're going to get your steps in. It's not that far of a walk, but just plan that, if I got to get from here to there, there's a little bit of a gap in between the hotels. And if it's a really beautiful day, which I hope we're going to get a little bit of in Orlando, just know you're going to get your steps in. You're going to get a little vitamin D, and you don't want to miss anything. So plan accordingly. The other little bit, I kind of heard, I think through the three of you as well, is one thing I like to do is at any event, inevitably, there's probably 90% of the things that I just don't know anything about. I focus on, X and Y, and I know generally what we're doing. I could kind of cheat my way out of a elevator conversation, but to be a little bit more aware of some other things that I don't do day to day, choosing and putting in my backpack or onto my agenda 2 or 3 things that are just, I have no idea if I'll understand anything that they're talking about. Like going to some dev Paolo Pialorsi conversation and he's talking about some deep development. I'll miss a lot of what he's talking about, but I'll at least come away with knowing a little bit more, obviously having fun listening to Paolo. He's awesome. Just as an example, but also then a little nugget of when somebody else talks about, can we do this or that? I'll at least remember, yeah, I think we can. I couldn't tell you how, but I think I know the answer is yes. Maybe we'll go into Microsoft Learn or, somewhere in the developer world and find the answer. Anyway, attend something that you know nothing about purely for the sake of learning something new and just having a little bit more left to right brain in the tech space.
I think that's a really good tip. I think that's one of the things that maybe I didn't say that I'll add in here is that you have to set aside this idea that you're going to see everything. You're not. Mm-hmm. But I think exposing yourself to that certain things are even possible. That's one of the hardest things is I forget the quote, but you don't know what you don't know. The unknown unknowns. And so with that, it's impossible to overcome that hurdle. So just exposing yourself to that. One thing I do tell people a lot when they're going to conferences for the first time and they don't know anybody is just write down one big thing and 2 little things for the whole conference that you want to walk away with. And those 2 little things might be things that you know nothing about. So what's that big subject that you need to be able to come back and catalyze action for? But what are 2 little things that might complement or be polar opposite to that big thing?
Love it. All right. So for our last thing, I think our attendees are getting warmed up and they're ready and they're a little bit more in the know, but they should be really in the know of who are these 3 people that have been talking to me for a little bit. I want to know what they're doing. So I'd love to give you all the opportunity. Imagine you're walking into, let's say, the Swan, just to be a little bit different, where not as much action is. You're about to walk over, but you're just in the elevator in the Swan. Mickey and Minnie both enter. Don't fangirl too much, Sharon. and they ask you the question, oh, what are you here for? What do you do? I'd love to just get a take on what you're going to be presenting, the core thing. You may be presenting a number of sessions, but the core thing that you're going to be presenting at the conference, and anything you want to tell, those attendees that should join your session. Sharon, we'll start with you. Okay. You're, Mickey and Minnie. And now
Mickey and Minnie. Oh, I love them. I know them. I've met them before. But
name drop.
I know. I would tell them that I'm going to be talking about knowledge management, which is something I've been talking about for a very long time. I have a degree in developmental psychology, and I love when I get to really talk about how people learn. And my session is around tacit knowledge, which is the stuff that we know how to do, but it's really difficult to get that knowledge to other people in a way that makes sense. And so it's how do we get that information and that experience and the experiential knowledge out of people's brains and into a tool so that other people can benefit from that knowledge.
Love it. Sharing is caring. Sharing your knowledge is really caring. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sharon. Derek, what are you talking about?
So I'm talking about how to build engaging employee experiences for Viva Connections. So that's about how to use the new extension point for Viva Connections called Adaptive Card Extensions, building the little widgets that go on the Viva Connections dashboard to help your employees be more productive. So I'm really passionate about development and extensibility, and I'm just excited that this gets to move into a new direction than just the intranet.
That's great. Great landscape of connections. What's behind it is obviously making it real and customized. That's great.
Yep.
Sean, what are you sharing there?
So we've got two things. First is on Monday, the 29th. A good friend of mine, Matt Wade, and I have a killer pre-conference workshop planned called Collaboration 201, which is focused on leveling up the way that you and your team work together in Teams and SharePoint with the power of Power Automate and Power Apps. So Collaboration 101 being how do all of these individual services and tools work independently. Collaboration 201, how do we start to leverage the magic of Power Automate and Power Apps and string them together in a way that can help level us all up. If you're not interested in the workshops, or if you've already got one planned, if you can't make that, you should definitely check out our session on the future of workplace collaboration in a world full of co-pilots. That's also going to be with myself and Matt Wade. And Mark, you've seen a version of that, I think.
I have seen a version of that. I love that you and Matt work really well together. And, a workshop, you're going to get a ton of depth. And in the session, they're going to certainly get enough to think about a lot of things. And I just have this vision of how many co-pilots can you fit in the world? Is there a limit?
We're going to find out.
That's great. I would love if we could just leave with a 10 or 15 second memory or story. Doesn't have to be from the Microsoft 365 Community Conference or the SharePoint Conference or any iteration of this branding and naming of this particular one, but just of an in-person event. If you had something that you did or had happened to you or collectively in a group, don't want to limit you to 10 or 15 seconds, but just a fun memory. Derek, you're laughing a lot, so you got something in your mind. You got to share it now.
Well, to be honest, I was asking my husband this question. I was like, all right, what should I talk about? And I was like, all of my stories I'm not sharing live on the internet with folks. But I will say that one of the coolest things that happened to me was, I think it was at the Microsoft conference in December of 2021. I got to see a project that I built, which was a design gallery for adaptive card extensions demoed in the keynote. And it had all of I was like, oh, wow, that's mine. Like, I built that. And somebody was up on the screen presenting it. And I was just like, that's really cool. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Love it. Sean, any story you'd be willing to share? You don't, like Derek, have to share anything that you don't want to. But would love if you just have a quip or something that happened that's just fun to share.
If I could remember any of the ones that happened to me, I would tell you them.
Just tell us one thing that Matt did before you went on stage. We know that he tortures you. We know it.
He does. He keeps me humble. Now, a fun story that I do remember, and really just kind of building on the advice that was shared earlier, you don't know who you're going to meet or the opportunities that you're going to stumble across. I remember in Microsoft Ignite 2019, a mutual friend of ours, Chaks Chandran, I was working on the, I want to say SharePoint team at the time.
He was at one point. He kind of came and did some wonderful things for development, and then he went off and into other things.
Well, he was looking for a theatrical assist and kicking off one of his demo sessions. So I got all mic'd up. I got to crash his introduction. I got to play the foil for a couple of business scenarios that hopefully made the whole thing feel a bit more real to those people in the room. And I think that was, not a thing that I was on the plane thinking about at all. I didn't know it was going to happen. And it is just those kinds of interesting exposures and opportunities that I hope everybody who attends these conferences gets to do. I hope you get to find your chalks.
I hope that everybody gets to find their chalks. Everybody needs more chalks in their life. That is fun. And I can picture it too, him asking you and then you, without any reservation, jumping into it. So that's awesome. Sharon?
So I'm going to take a little bit of a different spin on this just because I speak a lot on women in technology and I talk a lot about this subject. And so my funniest story, I think, is one of the very first SharePoint conferences I went to. I grew up in software development and I went to the SharePoint conference and there were more women in SharePoint, right, than there were in software development. And so I showed up to the conference, but what was really funny is I went to the restroom and on the restroom, I don't know if you guys remember this, on the restroom was a sign that said that it had been switched to a men's restroom. And if you needed to go to the women's restroom, to go upstairs, because there were so many men and so few women at this conference that they had to commandeer the women's restrooms for men. And so I tell this story because the very first time I did that, we did a women in SharePoint group. And I want to say there might've been 5 or 10 people there. And then every year since then, it's grown and it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And what's exciting is during this conference, that week is actually our monthly Women in Teams call. And we're hopefully going to be doing it live from the M365 conference. And I'm just excited that we've grown and we've gotten our bathrooms back.
I was going to say,
let's take it to the next level. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it's not just commandeer them back. No, let's expand it to a point where they take more of them.
There's still not a long line. I'm not going to lie, but that is kind of the bonus, right? Is that we don't have a long line because there's more men than women in general in technology. But at least we got our first floor bathrooms back.
I think the thing to keep in mind is just be unhinged about it. And what I mean by that is you take the M, let's see if I can do an M. I can't do an M. And just unhinge it and make it a W.
There you go.
We support that. Yeah. Boy, it's hard to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sharon. We will make sure that there are as many accessible women's bathrooms because not only should there be, because there is always a wonderful amount of women at the events, but nobody should have a hard time finding the bathroom, whether you're at an event or in your own home and your kids are hogging the bathroom. And how many times did I oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Just had a memory there for a second. But anyway, thank you all for joining. To our audience, if you're looking at this video and learning a lot, I know I learned a lot, and it's great to hear the first-person perspective about in-person events. We hope to see you at the Microsoft 365 Community Conference in Orlando, April 30th to the 2nd. If you come pre-day for the workshop, stay an extra day for another workshop. There's a lot to be offered at the event. But to the three of you, thank you for joining and sharing your thoughts, and we'll see you soon.
Yep. All right. See you
guys.
Bye.
Good to see you all.
Bye.
It's always great to get feedback, and I can say our 3 panelists today have been around the block of many a convention center and truly are great presenters, willing to share and good people at their core. So we are now in the home stretch towards the largest Microsoft 365 community gathering, the Microsoft 365 Community Conference. This year's conference takes place April 30th through May 2nd in Orlando, Florida, with 2 pre-day and 1 post-day workshop activities. In all, the focus is on the transition to an AI-powered workplace, as well as the integration of remote and in-person work with AI-driven business productivity. With over 175 Microsoft executives and product makers headed to Orlando, alongside hundreds of MVPs and community experts, you can expect breadth and depth across keynotes, sessions, AMAs, workshops, and a very packed, very busy expo hall. And don't forget about the fun that is the special attendee party, which is hosted at the Universal Islands of Adventure. This is Wednesday, May 1st, from 8 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. in the Eastern Time Zone. And this includes adventures across the wizarding world of Harry Potter, Marvel Superhero Island, and Jurassic World, home of the Velociraptor. So there's a lot of jumps and scares, or if you just want to stroll, enjoy some food, and hang out with some new friends, you can certainly do that as well. The Microsoft 365 Community Conference is designed for customers and partners who want to dive deep, learn, grow, and succeed in the era of AI with Microsoft Copilot, Microsoft 365, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, Power Platform, Viva, and more. There is something for everyone, not only product focused, but business focused, IT focused, and of course, elements and content for developers. It's a pretty big show, broad across the portfolio, with a lot of great people that you can lean in and on to learn from. And sometimes the most important thing, at least from my perspective, is to give feedback back to based on what you hear and maybe some of the things you think could course correct in the future. We have a big Microsoft 365 Community Conference event guide that's published now, so you can dig into all the details that we're planning. You can go to aka.ms/m365con/2024/guide. Or you can just jump in and register today at aka.ms/m365conf24. I'll have all these links in the show notes and within the blog. And note that you can also use a discount code that we offer, MSCMTY, that will save you $100 off the cost of registration. And see you there. I want to thank our guests, Sharon Weaver, Sean Bugler, and Derek Cash Peterson, for being on the show and for sharing all their tips and tricks to set you up to have an optimal experience in Orlando. We encourage you to check out our show page for links to all of what was discussed today and more. Go to aka.ms/theinterzone. Send us your questions and feedback for the SharePoint team, about the conference, about anything that you want to know about what it is that we have that we're going to be sharing in person, especially if you want to do this ahead of the event so we can make sure to course correct and plan accordingly. You can reach us via email at theinterzone@microsoft.com or via Twitter at SharePoint, at mcashman, and at cmcnulty. You can also reach out to the conference team at M365Conf. Remember to rate, review, and tell all your friends about the podcast, about the event, about how excited you are to have an in-person experience so that you can learn and train at the depth that you require. I thank you for listening. I'm your host, Mark Cashman. This has been The Interzone, a show about the Microsoft 365 Community Conference Intelligent Intranet.